Hetepu, Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Haru Nefer. This is Kasankma Keparu with another video for you. In this video, we're going to talk about the Botham Jean and Amber Guyger case and what it really means. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. And if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live or when I upload recorded videos. And don't forget to share this video with family and friends so we can spread this message and get the revolution started. Also, if you're not already, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You can do so for as little as $1 all the way up to $20 per month. And you get exclusive access to content, instructional videos, like videos on Qigong, videos on how to build wealth, how to invoke spirits, how to work with the oracles, how to manifest things in your life. So your support is appreciated, and in return, you get access to a great wealth of information. Also, I do have free ebooks that you can download and start reading today, which expand on the esoteric and talk more about my teachings, which are from the Kemetic perspective. So let us get into the subject matter at hand. There has been a verdict that has come out in the Amber Guyger case, which she could have got up to, I think, 99 years in jail for the murder of Botham Jean, and she ended up getting 5 years. And there was a lot of outrage over that, you know. And you may see that this is all over the media, all over social media, where they talk about her getting 10 years. Well, in actuality, she's not getting 10 years. For murder, you're eligible parole once you finish or do half your sentence. Okay? So more than likely, she's going to get paroled after 5 years. This is why I say she didn't get 10 years, she got 5 years. So everybody understands that. And I'll go into a little bit more about the rationale behind it. But I just wanted to show you guys something too that I came across this magazine called Inside Your Brain. And I really love, for some odd reason, studying the brain and how it works, because it reveals a lot. This issue, this magazine was very kind of expensive, but it really goes into the monkey mind. It goes into a lot of information about how we're wired, how we work, and where actually does consciousness reside. You know, it doesn't reside in the brain, you know. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, because it's going to explain a lot about this case, and I'm going to get really deep into it. Okay, can you see that? All right. The other thing is, I want you guys to get this as young entrepreneurs. Oh, by the way, if you haven't already become a Patreon member, do so, because you'll have access to my video part 1 and part 2 on how to get $1 million. It is the first time that I've done a video of that nature, because what I've done is to lay out the actual formula for manifesting anything in your life, including $1 million. And the reason I use $1 million, because it seems to be unattainable for a lot of folks. When it is attainable, you know, you can get $1 million. It's very, I know people who have $1 million sitting in the bank, and to them it's no big deal, you know. So I want you to think about that. You can manifest that in your life, you know. In fact, I wanted to do a whole series which talked about how individuals who I've worked with have manifested. Like one woman manifested $78,000, and I wanted to actually bring her onto the program, and I will eventually. So these things are wealth building is something wealth building and financial prosperity is something we need to work on, because when you have this incredible power, you can do wonders. And I have been working very intensely on mapping all of this out. So much so that I was, it was interesting. I was in a meeting today. It was a production meeting with the producer, and he's a tough guy, man. And he started yelling at me. Of course, I'm always at peace. And I noticed that I had a very intense day. I was back-to-back meetings. I had to meet on the script. I had to meet with the producer. I had to meet the client. The client didn't like the animation we were doing. But there was something very interesting I noticed, that it's almost as if I had ESP. I would say things that were pertinent to discussion, and before they would come up. And the client was like, wow, you just read my mind. And this continually happened. This is the synchronicity effect. And this is what happens when you're doing the work. When you're doing the work you're supposed to be doing, things will magically align to go your way. You'll find that you'll be in the right place, meet the right people to get the right money or to get the right opportunities. That's what your magic is for. Your magic, as in the I-ching says, you've given away your magic tortoise, meaning that your magic is not something you should be giving away or you should be relying on external means to get you out of your situation. You are God man, you are God woman. You are all you need in this life, all right? Keep that in mind. This dependence on external means and measures to save you is what's going to get you in trouble. And I went through many years before I got into the priesthood of life kicking my ass before I realized, Kasank, you've got to do something different. And that's when I started my studies into the occult. All right. And once I did that, I learned shape shifting. And even though I'm in my late 50s, I still look pretty. You know what I mean? So it's an illusion. I'm using my Jedi power to stay young forever. Anyway. Or you can say it's my vegan diet, or you can say it's my mother Ma'at keeping me young, whatever. So I want you to understand something. Prior to me getting to the priesthood, I was very politically active. I was going to a lot of lectures. I was listening. I even, at one point, got involved with the Communist Party because I wanted to help humanity and see what was causing problems in this world and kind of come up with a solve for it. But there was one interesting thing that I noted when I got involved in, we can say, civil rights. This is something that you need to be aware of. You need to wake up and understand. All right. Number one, and I'm going to be very careful how I put this. The majority of African Americans suffer from a lack of education, and it's purposefully done. The majority of African Americans are under the guise of a pendulum or an ergobore that keeps them intellectually lazy. And I saw that very quickly because I was surrounded by people who should know better, but weren't doing better. And the main thing I came to realize was this, that this problem, what we call as racism, or you want to call it white supremacy, whatever you call it, actually can be fixed. It doesn't have to keep being generational, meaning that this should have ended generations ago. And I studied history intensely. And what I realized was that African Americans in this country, and I've studied African Americans in the UK, their problems are kind of similar, but kind of not. But African Americans in this country are their own worst enemy, or our own worst enemy. What I witnessed firsthand was how they thwarted every effort to liberate themselves. And I studied like Soviets, Jews. I studied like many different cultures to see how they came out of oppression. And the one thing I noticed was that there was a self-destruct mechanism in us to when we come together, we try to do certain things. We tend to thwart those efforts. And it's very clear. And because what I saw was very obvious solutions and measures that could get us out of the situations we were in, but we seem to be going around it, but never going directly straight toward the solution. And that's when I realized that there was something that had to be manipulating the minds of our people here in this country. So much so that through the process of remote control, we were manipulated and put into parameters and controlled. All right. And the more I kind of voiced this and tried to tell people about this, the more they came against me as an agent provocateur. And I realized that I would have to extricate myself from that environment, from those people, from those situations. Because one thing I said on a panel, which they did not like, I said that African Americans in this country have a culture of criminality, and that has to be dealt with. You see, when you look at the media and you look at TV programs and you look at all these TV shows that have African Americans as the center theme, this is all constructed to paint a picture and to program the masses of not only white people, but African Americans. Because there is no, it's not by accident that you have a 50 Cent or a T.I. are individuals that you can name. Where Byron Allen, most people don't even know who he is because he's a very intelligent, astute, educated billionaire, African-American billionaire. So what I noticed, it was an attempt to promote the criminal element in the African-American community and then make that criminal element the dominant culture vis-a-vis hip-hop. So, hey, Stephanie, Hatepu. No, there absolutely is something wrong with African Americans. You must understand. And here's going to the other thing, dealing with a mental health issue. All right. You do not come out of slavery. You do not come out of oppression. Okay. Your mind is not right. So there is a mental health issue going on in the African American community. And what you have is you have a system, call it our government, that doesn't want to acknowledge that, and damn sure doesn't want to treat it. They don't want to address it. In the same vein as when you have these so-called scholars and doctors of psychology refuse to admit the fact that racism is a pathology that only exists among certain white people. It does not exist among Black people, but they try to generalize it and saying, oh, Black people can be racist too. No, that's not possible. That's not what it's all about. Because if you understand how the brain works and you understand that Black people are predominantly right brain, white people are predominantly left brain, then you understand that those two different hemispheres of the brain function in a very different way. But modern psychology does not want to fess up and admit the truth of what's going on. Therefore, because in admitting the truth, then you know that you've done something wrong in terms of slavery, and you have to make amends for that in terms of reparations and dealing with the mental health issues that a lot of African Americans have. See, this is one of the reasons why I got into priesthood, because I wanted to study NLP. I wanted to study hypnotherapy to help people overcome certain traumatic events that happened in their past. We now understand, and there have been numerous studies to talk about that, the act of slavery, the trauma of slavery, has now embedded itself in the DNA of African Americans. You must understand that. It's now in the DNA. Meaning that it's transferred, trauma like that is transferred on to your children and their children's children. And you can see that by studying the Holocaust and what happened to the Jews. So what I'm telling you is that not only is there a mental health issue or psychological abnormality going on with African Americans in this country, but they're also under the guise of a very dangerous and evil ergomor or pendulum. But understand, don't get this twisted. This has all been planned and manipulated by the ruling elite. Understand what I'm saying. I am not saying this has been the architects of this have been the masses of white people in general. That's not true. It has been formulated, put together by an elite group of Black magicians who took control of the planet and have manipulated the energy field to create this strife, this fiction of race war, or of a hierarchy of race, which is totally fictional. It's ridiculous. And when I talk about the sickness or the mental illness of African Americans, understand that you also have to deal with the manipulation that white people have undergone and the mental illness that they face as well. The conditioning has happened on both sides of the fence. But again, you're dealing with a system that does not want to treat this and does not want to deal with this because they want it to be the way it is. Do you understand what I'm saying? And what I found out in researching this is that, when you look at the right hemisphere of the brain, what is the right hemisphere of the brain? It really deals with the mammalian and reptilian brain. And what I mean by that is that Black people are very emotional. They're emotional. They emote. So instead of taking a very analytical approach to the problem, where they understand that it's not the masses of white people that are their enemies, and look at the pyramid structure and say it's those at the top that are manipulating those on the bottom. They are taught to just hate all white people. And the same goes for white people. They are taught that they are superior and better. And if you're saying that you weren't taught that, you're a damn liar, because you're living in a socially engineered society which propagates or proselytizes the fact that a white woman is the standard of beauty, a white man is the standard of wealth, riches, and so forth. So what we need to do as a people, as a collective, is to start looking at who are the rulers of this planet, who are the men behind the curtain, the wizards manipulating, who are the real puppet masters. Because as I talked about in the mythological Hydra, you can go and attack Don Trump, you can go and attack whatever grand wizard of the KKK, but all you're doing is cutting off a head and it's going to grow another head. We have got to get to the heart of this beast, and that heart is the unseen hand. It is the phantom menace. And they do not want to be seen. They do not want to be exposed, because they know what will happen. It's game over for them. So they have to stay in the shadows. They have to manipulate things, and they have to create more and more strife. Now they come out and now they want to attack gender roles. And now they want to finance the feminist movement so they can create the friction between white males and white females. That's an orchestrated conflict. They want to paint white males in a very general sense as the enemy. It's all white males' fault. Toxic masculinity. Let's blame them. White females, attack, support feminism, attack white males for the crimes that they have done. Do you see where all of this is going? It's perversion, it's lies, it's creating strife, creating wars, creating infighting. Because they know if we came to a consensus of thought, if we rid ourselves of the pendulums and the ergomores, that there will be harmony. There will be a coming together of the masses of people on the planet. So let us look at this situation with the verdict of Botham Jean and Amber Guyger. Now, if you don't know this story, Amber Guyger is a young white woman. She's a police officer. She was coming home from a long day of work. And instead of going to her apartment, she went to, I think, the apartment above or below, and was mistakenly thinking it was her apartment. The door was jarred open. She opened the door and saw Botham Jean sitting there eating ice cream. She pulled her gun and shot him, killed him. Then she realized she made a mistake, that it wasn't her apartment. She thought it was a burglar. So the Dallas Police Chief, Renee Hall, did everything she could not to have Amber Guyger indicted. And we'll talk about that a little later. So this went to trial. Amber Guyger was found guilty of murder, sentenced to 10 years, but really 5 years. And I want to talk about this because this gives us an insight as to the pathology and why this thing called racism cannot be overcome. So let me just look at, I want to share my screen with you so that you can see what actually happened. And this is from the body cam footage, okay? Let's take a look at this.
New developments in that dramatic murder trial underway in Dallas. We're now seeing body cam video from the night a police officer killed her neighbor, claiming she mistook his apartment for her own. Marcus Moore is in Dallas with the latest. Good morning, Marcus.
Well, Michael, good morning. Jurors watched this dramatic video, this chilling body cam video that shows officers in their desperate scramble to reach the fourth floor of the Southside Flats in Dallas. It's the night Amber Guyger shot 26-year-old Botham John. For the first time, jurors and the public are seeing the chaos of that night in real time. Officers sprinting down a long hallway and finding a distressed Amber Guyger. At the time, Guyger was a fellow officer, taking first responders to her fatally injured neighbor. Several officers immediately taking turns performing CPR, trying desperately to save John. But prosecutors are seemingly using other videos to suggest Guyger received preferential treatment from her colleagues.
She's hugging somebody now?
Yes.
At one point, allowed to sit in a patrol car, at times looking at her phone as John is rushed to the hospital where he died. Guyger's attorneys say she mistakenly went to the wrong floor of her apartment building after an almost 14-hour workday. When she walked into what she thought was her home, she says she believed John was an intruder and opened fire. But prosecutors spent day 2 of the trial trying to portray Guyger as reckless, pressing one responding officer about the protocol when an officer believes there's a burglary in progress.
What do you do?
You cover concealment.
Is that because of the sanctity of human life?
Yes, sir.
And we expect another busy day in trial as prosecutors could potentially call more neighbors to testify about what they saw and heard, and also forensics experts. Robin?
Now, I want you to keep that in mind, what he says in terms of cover and concealment, which is what these police officers are basically trained to do. But she brazenly went in there and she shot him. Okay. Now, no one knows. Only God knows if she really made a mistake or not, or I don't know. I believe that, and I'll tell you what I believe in a second. I'll get to that. But what I want to highlight here is through this trial, the most inappropriate behavior by the judge and by Botham Jean's family. Inappropriate behavior, which in a sense led to a lack of justice in this case. You see, oh, I forgot my notes. Oh, crap. All right. But anyway, I'll get to that. You see, the jury was comprised of most of minorities. Okay. I believe it was like, what was it? Like, hold on a second, see if I have it. Oh, yeah, I have it right here. Okay. So the jury was composed of 5 blacks, 5 Asians, 2 white, 8 female, 4 males. It was a minority jury, right? Now, when the verdict was handed out of 10 years, you have to understand, like I said, 10 years is really nothing. You can do that standing on your head, you know what I mean? Like really, because what she's going to do is do 5 years and get paroled at that point. So, but I want you to see the reaction of the family and people once the verdict was handed down that she would just get 10 years. So let's just take a look at that, the reaction.
And they should have seen them to have kids and get married at all. But no, police, because they got a bad job, they can get this. These fucking have been made. These years, only 10 years. Are you serious? Are you serious? She's not right. She did not right. That was off.
So do you see that angry reaction there? Okay. I want you to understand something. Okay. Obviously, which realistically, you should be angry, but I want you to keep something in mind. Okay. 5 black, 5 Asian, 2 white, 8 female, 4 male. The jury is not composed of robots. The jury is not comprised of mystery people from planet Zeta Reticuli or whatever. This is a jury of your peers. This is not the system doing it to you. This is not the man. You're talking about a jury of your peers. Went back, deliberated, and decided that she should get 10 years. And they did so. They knew what they were doing. They said, we're not going to give her 5 years because that would cause a lot of outrage, because that means that she would be eligible for parole in 2.5 years. And that would be like an incredible disservice and lack of justice. So they got away. They were slick, and they said, let's give her 10 years. I think the minimum amount she should have got would be 15 years. The minimum should have been 15 years. All right. Now, we should know in this country something. I think this has to do with her being a woman. All right. And not so much a race thing, but a woman. We know in this country, the highest incarcerated is black males. Second to that is black women. And then you have white, and then of course you have white men, and then bottom of that totem pole is white women. All right, so, and we know that black men are disproportionately jailed. This is why we have the prison industrial complex, and black men are in jail for little ridiculous things like possessing weed and the whole. We just went through the whole thing with the 3 strikes, and we literally have men in jail for child support, weed, nonviolent crimes that exceed 10 years. Travesty of justice. But going back to what I talked about was thwarting your own efforts to achieve liberation and freedom from this thing called racism. I want you to see this and pay careful attention to this. All right. Understand that this was during the sentencing of Amber Guyger, that they had the opportunity to talk to individuals so that the jury can get a perspective on who she was in her life. What they found out was that she had these racist texts that she tried to delete, but the prosecution got it, which talked about her wearing black to your funeral. She was brazenly admitting that she would kill you and wear black to your funeral. There were racist statements that she made, even referring to a racist dog that she wanted. There was also sex texting going on right after Botham Jean was killed. She's sex texting, I guess, her boyfriend. There is photos for her on her social media accounts, which she went and immediately deleted. Basically, more racist statements, talking about black police officers. So this gives you an insight into her mentality. So let me play this video, because I think this is very important as to when. Well, let me play this video so you guys can see it, because I think will give you a better picture of why the jury made the decision that they did. Okay.
Scene in a Texas courtroom, a man whose brother was shot to death by a Dallas police officer, forgiving his brother's killer and embracing her.
If you truly are sorry, I know I can speak for myself. I forgive you. And I know if you go to God and ask him, he will forgive you. And I don't think anyone could say it. Again, I'm speaking for myself, not even bad for my family. But I love you just like anyone else. And I'm not gonna say I hope you rot and die just like my brother did, but I personally want the best for you. And I wasn't gonna ever say this in front of my family or anyone, but I don't even want you to go to jail. I want the best for you. Because I know that's exactly what Botham would want you to do.
Okay, so if anyone has ever lost a sibling, then you know how hard that is. I lost a brother. Now, I want you to understand his words. He said to Amber Guyger, I love you. I want the best for you. And I don't want you to go to jail. Then he gets up and hugs her, essentially gives her a hug in the courtroom. Okay. So here we go. You can see this right here. He's hugging her. The woman that sent text messages that lied and said that when she went into Botham Jean's apartment, he lunged at her in a very aggressive way, and she was in fear of her life. This is why she shot him. She spoke negatively about Black police officers, spoke negatively about Martin Luther King Jr., talked about that she would wear black to your funeral after she kills you. He's hugging this woman, telling that he doesn't think she should go to jail and he forgives her. Okay. Do you understand the mental illness that we're dealing with here? This is Stockholm Syndrome. If you're going to be outraged, okay, let's speak real. Now, let's be real and be perfectly honest with ourselves, okay? If you're going to be angry,
and this is why for us, really messed up. This is like really an issue that has to change. We have systems together. We have to be able to create a voice. That there are systems that are set in place that allows us to be okay.
If you're going to be angry at the jury only giving her 10 years, then you must look at Jean Botham's Botham Jean's brother and what he said to the jury. The jury is basing their decision off this testimony. Again, the brother says, I don't even want you to go to jail. The brother said this, then got up and hugged Amber Guyger. What do you think that communicates to the jury? What will you think that will communicate to her parole officer in 5 years? Do you understand the sickness behind that? Now, I'm a religious person. I come from the Asara Set religion, in which when Haru did battle against Set, he didn't kill Set, even though Set was evil. He said, there's a place in this world for Set, but he didn't say to Set, I love you and I forgive you. That would be indicative of a mental illness. And this is what that religion, that Christianity has done to people. Of course, this is exactly what the ruling elite wants it to be. They want you to be screwed up mentally through following this religion. Now, let's take this even further, because there not only that, there were some other shockingly inappropriate things that went on, especially by the bailiff. All right. This is something we need to, I mean, this is something like really, really interesting. So I want you to take a look at this. I actually found a longer video of this, but I lost the link, but I do have this, video. So let's take a look at this. So the bailiff, a black woman, I guess she's going to check Amber Guyger's hair for contraband. I don't know what she's doing, but she ends up stroking it for a really long amount of time. Now this video is only a few seconds, but if you find the real video, she's stroking her hair for a long amount of time. Now, as I said, she does it for at least 5 minutes. When I saw that, I was like, well, what in the world is going on with this bailiff? Why is she touching her hair? Why is she stroking her hair? Okay. All right. Now, I want to take things even further because, like I said, there were some inappropriate things that went on by people who should know better, who rightly should know better. And I want to bring your attention to Judge Tammy Kemp. All right. She initially allowed what they call is the Castle Doctrine into the case. And this is what the defense wanted to have allowed for the jury to hear. The Castle Doctrine basically says in Texas, it's like stand your ground, meaning that if you feel that you're being threatened and you're on your property, then you have a right to defend yourself through deadly force. So Judge Tammy Kemp was allowing the Castle Doctrine to be used in this case, even though Amber Guyger was not in her apartment. Even though Amber Guyger was a police officer, and usually the Castle Doctrine is applied to civilians, protecting their homes, protecting themselves. But she allowed this into the case, which was suspicious. But that's okay. Let's continue. So I want to look at hold on one second. Kind of want to look at this. Now, let me not go to this one yet. Let me show you something else that I think is important. And let me go back to what I was trying to find, which is the judge in this case and what she did, which was, I think, was pretty shocking. You know, it was pretty amazing. Give me 1 second.
This is the one I use every day. This is your job for the next month. You get right here. John 3:16. And this is the start. For God so loved the world, that he gave his one and only Son.
For those of you who don't know, she's giving Amber Guyger a Bible. She gives her a Bible and reads scripture to her. Then she gives her a hug. I don't want to have to play the whole thing. And here's the hug. Now, what you should know is that Judge Tammy Kemp and the police chief, Renee Hall, are sorority sisters. They know each other. So essentially they're in bed with one another, all right? But, and I want all of you to excuse my French here. What the fuck is she doing? A judge giving her a Bible reading scripture to a murderer and then giving her a hug? Do you know how inappropriate that is? I don't even want to get into the whole fact of the matter is that why you're giving her a Bible and the Bible's free. She can get it anywhere. In fact, she'll get one when she goes to jail. This religion thing has infected people's mind to where they're sick. They're pathologically sick. If you are a judge, which is what is Oser is a judge, which means that you're impartial. This is why he's signified as a mummy. He's not influenced by emotions. You're not supposed to be going up there giving a murderer a hug and a Bible. What the hell's wrong with you? I mean, this is like speechless. And you're wondering why the jury didn't give her a longer sentence. Because this woman is being treated like a little princess. I don't think you should go to jail. I love you. The bailiff stroking her long blonde hair. The judge giving her a Bible and hugging her. What the hell? My brother has died. Are you people insane? This is what I would literally be saying in the courtroom. A woman, Amber Guyger, who tried to delete racist text messages. A woman, Amber Guyger, who was trained to, when she encounters a danger, the first thing she should do is cover and concealment, not shoot the black man. The next thing is, which is what the prosecution brought up, and they said, Amber, if you had got on your walkie-talkie and called this in, you would have had the cavalry there. You would have SWAT. You would have every police force team member there to assist you and back you up. Why did you not do that? Because she didn't see Botham Jean as a human being. And she clearly indicated that in her text messages. She clearly indicated that after she shot him, instead of giving him CPR or whatever, she was sex texting. All right, lastly, I just want to play this.
I first want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. This has been a difficult year for everyone involved. In this tragic event, our city and 2 families' lives have been forever impacted. What we can agree upon as a whole is that Dallas today is different than it was yesterday, and definitely different than it was a year ago. We were so moved today by Botham's brother in his asking of Amber Guyger a hug. And we were equally moved when the Judge Kemp, gifted her with a Bible. That's the spirit in which I think we want to move forward, with a spirit of forgiveness, faith, and trust that the changes that need to be addressed in this city are addressed, and we make them together.
Okay. This woman's full of shit. This woman is full of shit. She doesn't lead with there was a breakdown in a process which caused the death of an innocent man. Justice was served. She doesn't say that. She doesn't say that we need to train our officers better. We need to filter the candidates that come into the academy so that they don't have bias or racial prejudice. I put in place these procedures and policies so that this will never happen again, that Botham Jean's life was not in vain. We have people in positions of power who are corrupt, who are evil, and who should not be there. But more importantly, what I want you to take away from this video is that African Americans are their own worst enemy. There is no boogeyman sitting on the jury. We saw the judge act inappropriately. We saw the bailiff act inappropriately. We saw Botham Jean's brother say things he should not have said. And then when the jury does their job, there's outrage. Well, your behavior influenced the jury to make a decision to give her 10 years. So don't get outraged. We can overcome this thing called racism, and we can do it together. But you're going to have to do it together, and you're going to have to all work off the same page. One person can't do this, another person can't do that. There's a misalignment. There have to be a consensus of thought, and we have to get rid of that damn Bible, the King James Version. King James was a pedophile, in case you didn't know, and start to look at a process that will work for us. And it's not going to work seeking liberation and freedom by blaming the masses of white people, because the masses of white people are not responsible for the condition of this planet. Because that is the ruling elite, call them the Illuminati, whatever you want. That's the game they play. They get you to hate the other side. They want you to hate the other side. They want to create that racial hatred and that racial fighting. Study Bacon's Rebellion, in which black people and white people were slaves, and they fought together to free themselves from the ruling oligarchy. Study that and understand that. I question Botham Jean's mother and how she raised her boys. Because to be honest with you, I don't understand what she was doing and what they were doing. The Osirian religion, and any religion, says, listen, if you do something wrong, then you have to pay the price for that. We're not going to stroke your hair. We're not going to give you a Bible. We're not going to say you don't deserve to go to jail. You do deserve to go to jail because you acted against police procedure, Dallas police procedure. You should never have been a police officer in the first place talking about killing people and wearing black to their funeral. You should never have been a police officer when you have racial prejudice. But like many police officers, and there are a lot of good ones out there, and I know some good ones, but like many, they slip through that crack. One life is one too many. If you want to hope and pray that the Dallas police force is going to change, then hey, don't hold your breath. It is acts like this, when you're walking around talking, I forgive you, which devalues the life of an African-American male. You have to think about the greater context. the bigger picture. You have to look at the fact that African American males are being gunned down in this country, that they are the victims of a multiplicity of things. They're stereotyped in media. They're racially profiled by police. They're not given jobs, high unemployment rate. They're disproportionately incarcerated. You look at these things, and then you say in a forum that's going to go out to the world globally, the mass media, news media, that I don't think you should go to jail. I want you to understand what that communicates. I want you to understand what that vibrational frequency does when it's out there in the ether. It's not just about Botham Jean. It's about every Black man on the planet and what they have to endure and what they have endured. You have to think about that. Your actions are going to impact them indirectly. That's what you have to think about. And you also have to think about that your religion, Christianity, is not the religion that everybody buys into. And that you should not be out there pushing it or giving people Bibles. That is just highly inappropriate. You murdered an innocent man. Although I have no hatred for you, I am not going to hug you. What I will tell you is go do your time, learn from your mistake, and that is it. Anything above and beyond that demonstrate that you have a psychological illness, that you have Stockholm syndrome, that you value her life over your own brother's life. Because what Botham Jean's brother said was very disrespectful to him and his memory. You should have taken cover and called this in. You should not have walked into an apartment that obviously was not yours. To a man sitting there eating ice cream, I don't know any burglar that comes into your apartment, breaks in, and then helps himself to a bowl of ice cream. And her mistaking his apartment for hers doesn't fly when he had a red welcome mat outside of his apartment and she doesn't have a red welcome mat. So that, to me, if I'm walking into an apartment and I'm seeing a red mat on the floor, that's a big red flag to me that, wait, what's that mat? Is this my apartment? This thing of racism can be overcome, but we have to be on the same page and we have to be working toward the same goal. We can't be doing this nonsense of forgiving, handing out Bibles, stroking hair, hugging. You can't do that. That's not what Jesus was about. That's not what Osir is about. And it's definitely not what Buddha is about. And most definitely not what Muhammad is about. This is coming from something deeper within them, in the collective consciousness of these individuals who participate in this religion, which is under the guise of an evil and corrupt pendulum. Break away from that, and then you will see where your salvation truly lies, where we will see the solution to racism and oppression on this planet. Understand that we all, black and white, are being manipulated. It's a mind fuck, and a big one. And though it may be hard to get out from under that, we're going to have to do it, or else the ruling elite will win. And God help us in the end. Because if they win, their vision for us is going to be dark, deadly, disturbing, and anti-life affirming. This is Kasak Ma Keperu, son of Maat and Tuuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. And until my next video, Amin Ra.